We're live, and we're really, really pumped up tonight because tonight marks the end of any pretense that we have a justice system in America. This used to be a country where we could proudly say it had the greatest justice system in the world. I think it was even Winston Churchill that basically said that our justice system had even moved ahead of our predecessor system, which was in the UK. I mean, our system of justice comes from English common law. And Winston Churchill said, of course, our system of justice wasn't perfect, but it was the closest thing to perfect that he could think of. Well, it sure isn't there now. I don't know where we rate now, but there've got to be a whole bunch of countries ahead of us. First of all the countries that don't put their prior leaders or try to put their prior leaders in jail on trumped up charges. Before we even get to the ones that exist now, just think of Russian collusion, for example. So that puts us somewhere way near the middle. Then letting Hillary Clinton off the hook for 33,000 emails that she destroyed. That she did what they charge Trump with 33,000 times, except much worse. He just destroyed the documents. Trump preserved the documents. Mm-hmm. And unlike Biden, he didn't put them in a place where they were likely to be seen by our biggest enemy in the world, China. Kept them at Mar-a-Lago. Maybe not in exactly the room they would like, but in Mar-a-Lago. There was no exposure to Russians. There were no exposure to Red Chinese. In the case of Biden, just the opposite. So now we have this, I don't know what to call it, this travesty of justice, a plea to a misdemeanor minor crime, which is what it is. It's a minor crime, rarely charged. Misdemeanor tax evasion gets resolved usually in a civil settlement because we don't want to waste the resources of the government on things that get resolved in terms of economics and I guess this is kind of like Al Capone going on tax evasion charges, which was the least serious thing that Al Capone ever did, I guess. But this is even less serious since he paid the money back. The tax evasion part of all of the things that Hunter Biden did is probably the least egregious and the one where the Justice Department is treating him different than others. But of course, they're doing it by agreement. So that sort of makes it different. They're doing it by agreement because they need a misdemeanor that doesn't carry guidelines, although judges aren't as bound by them now, of definite prison time. So if you charge a crime that's rarely charged, the chances that he would get prison time for it are very, very small, even if the judge were a mean judge. The more difficult issue here is the gun issue, because there were two possible charges they could have brought against him there. One is the lesser charge, but in many ways, the one that it's, well, I'm not so sure it's easier to see. The one charge would have been making a false statement on an application, a federal application for a firearm. Don't remember if that carries 2 or 5 year penalty. It's used a lot. It's a real favorite of the left wingers because it's part of their strict gun control. What do they always say? People who are criminals and people who are mentally infirm and people who are drug addicts shouldn't be able to get guns. They shouldn't be able to get licenses. So, of course, if they lie on those forms, they're able to get licenses. And the only way you're going to stop them from doing it is to prosecute them when they do it. So you create a deterrent, right? Gun control freaks, right? Well, that they have ignored completely. I mean, there's no doubt. He signed the form. I should have brought it with me. It's on my podcast, forgotten which number, but the one in which we lay out his gun crime, including the involvement of his sister-in-law, at the time lover. And why they didn't charge him with that is really odd, because that's something they want to enforce. And that's something that carries a deterrent impact, meaning if I know that I'm going to get prosecuted for that, and a person like Hunter Biden actually can create a deterrent impact because everybody will know about the case, then you're going to prevent a certain number of people, deter a certain number of people from lying on that form. I mean, the form's useless if people lie on it, right? So this gives you an idea of what phonies they are about gun control, because this crime has been sitting there for 3 years and haven't done anything with it. But instead, they are going to, they're kind of going to charge him with the more serious felony of possessing a firearm as a drug addict. And that carries 10 years in prison, and a lot of times leads to prison. There are some recent ones where people have gotten 4 and 6 and 5 years in prison. A lot of it depends on how serious an addict. A lot of it depends on the full set of circumstances surrounding it, the way it was done. The government fails to mention in the indictment, unlike the indictment they did of Trump, which was like a novel. This is just a bare bones, single one-page paragraph. They fail to mention that several days before or after he made the false statement to get the gun and possessed it, he was driving an automobile while smoking a crack pipe and making a big deal out of it. Now that's the first time he's done that. There are, if you want to see them, they're on that website where there are 10,000 photographs, and I'll send you to that website because I only have 2,000 of them. Right? But among the 2,000 are several where he's smoking a crack pipe while he's driving. So we add to that driving under the influence of who knows what, crack. So this is an aggravated offense, but he's not going to be sentenced on this. He's going to get something called deferred prosecution. Now, deferred prosecution is usually used for juveniles, first offenders. It usually says the person pleads guilty to it, and then after a certain period of time, they're put on probation, and then after a certain period of time of being a good boy or girl, the charge is dismissed. So that this is used a lot. Used to be used with marijuana cases a lot. It's used with simple assault cases. It's used with first offender minor crimes, not possession of a firearm by a 30 or 40-year drug addict who was driving while smoking crack and lied about the fact that he was an addict. I mean, we got all kinds of complications to this. That would mean if his name weren't Biden, he wasn't going to get pre-trial deferral or whatever they call it. They call it different things in different jurisdictions. And again, as I said, I rarely have seen this used, if at all, for adults. This is used to give a kid a break. Hunter's had so many breaks. I mean, he's run out of them, hasn't he?
Mayor, there's a lot of people with conspiracy theories on Twitter saying that Joe Biden, not Hunter, cut a deal for his son to possibly he won't run next year. What do you think of these rumors?
I don't think they carry any water at all. I think that Joe Biden's Justice Department will do anything Joe Biden wants. Joe Biden has already signaled to them that they would basically let him go. When he announced that he was innocent, he's the smartest person he knows. He's very proud of him. He let his Justice Department know everything they needed to know with regard to dictating what should happen here. And of course, Garland is the most crooked AG we've ever had. So he's not about to do anything you don't have to persuade him. He's just going to let Hunter go free, which is essentially what they've done. And you end up with an article. I mean, I can't resist this article from the Daily News, which has turned into a Democrat rag. It used to be a fair-minded newspaper. It says that this was done. Let me just read this to you. This is really quite a exposition by a press that is. Well, they do point out that a federal judge has to approve this deal. I sure as hell wouldn't approve it if I were a federal judge. But listen to this one. The deal, which analysts say will likely call for Hunter Biden to serve time on probation, which is a nice way of saying he won't go to jail, puts an official legal end to the grandiose claims of widespread wrongdoing that Republicans have used as a political cudgel against President Biden. Think they're biased? Well, that's the question that remains. Does this put an end to Hunter Biden's problems? Puts an end to the tax case, probably with a probationary sentence and a fine. Maybe not even a fine, since the economics of this have already been worked out. And the other is going to be a period of time, if the judge accepts it, where he's in essence also on probation. And if he's a good boy, the crime goes away. It's not on his record. So ultimately, the worst thing he has is a misdemeanor or 2 misdemeanors on his record, no jail time. And here's the issue. Is that the end of all of the charges against Hunter Biden? The Daily News seems to think so. Puts an official legal end to the grandiose claims of widespread wrongdoing. Neither one of these were part of the Republican claims of widespread wrongdoing. Maybe the gun charge a bit. Certainly not the tax charge. The widespread wrongdoing has to do with the somewhere around $50 million in bribes that he received, in which he admits that he gave 50% of it to his father, including the one most recently that's come out, the $10 million from Mykola Zlochevsky to get his company out from under being seized by the government of Ukraine. It also involved, I guess, the most serious of them is these charges. So we're going to need to create a little more room for this. And we have a guest, and that guest is...
That's right. That's right, Mayor. We have on the phone with us former federal prosecutor and deputy chief of the criminal division of the Southern District of New York. I'll let you include any other portion of an introduction you'd like to.
And
Bob
I think the
Costello.
best lawyer in New York, Robert Costello. Bob, how are you?
He's not on.
Bob, are you with us?
Heard the beginning of your.
Well, Bob is with
I'm
us,
here.
but somehow we've lost him in the
No,
in the technology here. But I wanted to get his view as a very, very experienced both prosecutor and defense lawyer. I wanted to get his view on what he thinks of this, and a lot of it is going to be very.
Bob is with us now. Bob,
Hello, Bob. How are you?
I'm here. I'm great. And I'll tell you what I think about this.
Have you noticed
to high
that
heaven.
the first set of earphones I always get never work, and then I have to get a second set? Why don't you give me the second set first?
Sorry, Mayor.
No. This is true. We'll go into it later. I don't want to interrupt with a facetious thing here. Bob, are you there?
Okay. Am I on? I am on the air. Right?
I have got
Yes,
you.
I'm here.
I got now. So, Bob, tell me what you think of this. You know, any way you want. I mean,
But
here's
the most astonishing thing that you probably don't know yet. I just saw it before on TV. Hunter Biden's lawyer said that they were never asked about the Hunter Biden hard drive. Astonishing.
Wait.
Astonishing.
They would
never asked about the Hunter Biden hard drive.
They weren't even
That's
asked if
what
it was
lawyer
his.
said.
They
Right.
were never asked
Weren't
if.
asked a thing. Not a word. Now that's astonishing, but it's in keeping with the cover-up. Now the news that we have for the Bidens tonight is they think they've escaped. But Rudy, you and I know that we're working on something that will not allow them to escape if we're successful.
Yes. Yeah.
But-
I mean, they're not.
Right.
But we have a dispute between the Biden lawyer that says this ends his legal difficulties, and a leak from the Justice Department that says the investigation is ongoing, but not an official statement from the Justice Department yet.
Right.
It would be inconceivable.
Right, exactly.
It would be inconceivable that not only what you and I are sort of clandestinely talking about, but all the other charges.
That's
I mean,
right.
there must be 50
Well,
different sets of
absolutely.
charges
Now,
out there, bribes from all over. I mean, bribes from all
let
over
me
the
give you a
world.
quick scenario. Remember, we got this hard drive August 28th, 2000. What was it?
2020. 2020.
2020.
Right
Okay.
toward the end of the campaign.
Which was about 8.5 months after the FBI got the device. When I say the FBI got the device, it was the FBI in Delaware, where our friend, John Paul McIsaac, the Delaware shop owner, did not want to give any of the evidence that he had to the Delaware FBI because he said he didn't trust them. So he tried to give that laptop through his dad to the FBI in New Mexico. They wouldn't take it. Instead,
Like they wouldn't take
about
it
a week
from me.
later, they wouldn't take it. Exactly. They wouldn't take it from him. And then they sent two agents with a grand jury subpoena, duces taken, which calls for documents or things, to pick up the actual laptop, which was now fried, and hard drive. But these agents were not clever enough to ask John Paul McIsaac if that was the only copy of the hard drive, which of course it wasn't, which is why he sent me a copy of the hard drive 8 months later and wanted me to get it to you, which I did. Now, this is amazing.
Thank God.
Because we, of course,
Thank God.
spent time-
Otherwise,
thank God.
if that hadn't happened, it might not be out there at all.
It wouldn't be out there at all. You can be assured of that by virtue of the fact that the U.S. attorney in Delaware never asked Hunter Biden's lawyer about the hard drive. Maybe the FBI never gave it to the U.S. attorney. It's possible, highly unlikely, but possible. But if the U.S. attorney had it and they didn't ask a single question in engineering this ridiculous misdemeanor plea deal, then you know something is really crooked here. And they think they've gotten away with something, but we have news for them. They haven't gotten away with it yet. And if everything works out the way we hope it will, they will not get away with it. I'll give you a quick scenario. Just looking at that Hunter Biden hard drive, we can prove a RICO case involving conspiracy, money laundering, and tax evasion based upon the events of one day in
That's
the
right.
life of Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
One day where he's entertaining a what's the proper term for it? An escort. He's
Prostitute.
entertaining an escort.
Prostitute might be the right
that'd be
name
a
for it.
fair. That would be a fair description.
Or maybe she was a
at the
spy.
end of-
Some of those prostitutes were spies, but okay.
At the end of his session, after he gave her all of the cash that he had on him, he said, "You still owe me $8,000." $8,000. Hunter said, "No problem." He reached into his wallet and pulled out a debit card in his name. And because this young lady was working for a Beverly Hills escort agency, she had a phone that had a swiper on it. And
The prostitute carried around a swiper for credit cards.
Well, it's a phone for credit cards. Exactly.
I'm sorry, I
So
shouldn't laugh.
She swiped the card and said, "Oh, it didn't go through." So he pulled out another one in the name of Hunter Biden. These are all debit cards, by the way. She swiped it. She said that didn't go through. This little routine happened 6 times. On the 6th attempt, she said, "Okay, it went through. Thank you very much." And she left. When she got to her place of business, suddenly her computer went ping, 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 ping. Those 5 transactions that she told Hunter didn't go through now suddenly went through. So now she's been paid $48,000, $40,000 more than she requested. But because she was an honest lady of the night,
An honest
she decided
prostitute.
to
You
call.
see, this is
Yeah,
not
she-
just a.
she
This
called
is not.
Hunter Biden.
This is not a
Right.
fiction. They always say, you know, that there's the warm-hearted, hussy, right?
Yeah,
So
well,
she was
picked
going to
up the
pay him
phone and
back.
Called Hunter. Exactly, to pay him back. Well, Hunter, because he was still in a drug-induced state, started screaming at her and calling her names. And she said, "Hey, listen, stop calling me names. I'm the one who called you. You didn't call me. And the reason I called you is to give you the money back. So we'll arrange something." Meanwhile, while that transaction is happening, a couple of hours later, while Hunter is still in the room at the chateau, I won't give the last name, in Beverly Hills, there's a knock on the door. And Hunter is not answering the door because there's drug paraphernalia and liquor bottles all over the place. So this person at the door takes out his cell phone and he texts Hunter Biden. And that text winds up on the Hunter Biden hard drive. And both you and I have read these texts.
Right.
And that text says, H, this is Rob. You've got to open the door. We have to straighten this situation out. He said, one of those accounts you used is linked to Celtic. And I've been getting calls every 10 from DC. We have to straighten this out in the immediate. That's the way he speaks or writes on his text message. Well, it turns out that this person who's doing this, oh, and by the way, Hunter doesn't respond right away. So he gets a second text, this time from the other guy who's there at the door. And he said, "This is Dale's. Hunter, if you don't open the door, we're going to tell the guy at the front desk you're in trouble, and we're going to break in or get the key and come in." So he says, I'll be down in 5 minutes. It turns out that the first guy, Rob, turns out to be the special agent in charge, or the recently retired special agent in charge of the U.S. Secret Service office in Los Angeles. The second guy with him is the former assistant director of the United States Secret Service in Washington, who happened to be at one point in time assigned to the protective detail of Joe Biden. So I checked and found, I said, what is this Celtic name that he's referring to? Celtic was the Secret Service code name for Joe Biden. So we have essentially two high-ranking Secret Service officials who can definitely testify, if they're truthful, that one of those accounts in the name of Hunter Biden, a debit card in the name of Hunter Biden, was really Joe Biden's money. What does that mean? That means Joe Biden wasn't declaring that money because it was in Hunter's name.
It also means he was laundering.
Exactly right. He was hiding and disguising, which is another word for laundering, money. It's tax evasion, money laundering, because it's the two of them. You and I both know that's called a conspiracy. And when you have a conspiracy, a money laundering and a tax evasion count, those three counts together can constitute the basis for a RICO charge, as you know, because you probably brought more RICO cases than anybody in the history of the Southern.
Yeah, and also it allows you to seize the money, take the money away from you.
Exactly.
And of course, you know,
but this is you don't have to get involved in a long investigation that lasts a year. It's a one-day event.
Yep.
One day, and it shows you that those two have major legal problems that aren't satisfied with a misdemeanor by the tax department.
So today there's an article in the Post that when he first started with Burisma, and this goes back, actually not when he first started, but after a year or two, they put him into a bank account of a bank in Malta, SATA Bank, which is
right.
The SATA Bank was eventually closed for money laundering, and it was a money laundering center, kind of like Privat Bank in Ukraine. And Pozarski, his the number two guy at Burisma, put him into that account.
Yes.
So, I mean that definitely has to be one of the accounts where they were laundering money.
No doubt about it. And, you know, everybody keeps on saying Hunter Biden got $1 million a year. They're forgetting that his partner in a three-man partnership, Devin Archer, also got $1 million.
Right.
So they got $2 million coming into that three-person partnership. And the third person disassociated himself with these ventures because that was Hines, who is the son-in-law, not son-in-law, the stepson of
John Kerry,
former vice president, right?
John Kerry,
right.
yeah, the Secretary of State. So
Right.
this SATA,
Right.
this SATA bank is probably one of the banks that could have been figured out way back in 2020, in January or February, when we made available to the FBI. In January of 2020, when we went to Pittsburgh and made available to the FBI a very high-ranking official within Burisma who was willing to give all of the offshore accounts of Biden and other politicians being paid off by Burisma. And I mean, that money, who knows how much more they got in those payments, and who knows who the other politicians are. But the FBI the FBI never interviewed her, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Someday we should just make a list of the people they didn't interview.
Yeah, there were 6 people whose names we gave them that they did not interview.
But I'm thinking, all throughout the investigation, I don't think they've ever interviewed Shokin. Main guy.
You did.
I did, and we have it on tape. But I don't think they've interviewed Shokin, the guy who is this at the center of the whole case. I mean, you just dismiss him.
He's the prosecutor. He's the prosecutor that Joe Biden crowed about on television, saying that he got him fired because he told the president of the Ukraine at the time, "You don't get the $1 billion unless this guy gets fired, and I'm leaving in 6 hours. If you don't fire him in 6 hours, you don't get the $1 billion." And sure enough, that's not the phrase he used. Sure enough, they fired him. Well, that's the guy that you interviewed.
Yep.
And that's the guy that was investigating Burisma and Hunter Biden. And Hunter Biden was getting $1 million a year, which according to him, he had to share with Pops.
50%.
Right?
Yeah, 50% to Pop.
Right.
That's him, not me. That's not you.
You would only know this. You would only know this if you looked at the hard drive as you have and as I have. And according to Hunter Biden's lawyer, no questions at all were asked of them about the hard drive, which is just astonishing.
The other thing that's amazing, the other thing, we're talking about Ukraine. The other thing is, how can a U.S. attorney have Hunter Biden in his sights and not pursue China if he has any love for this country or caring about this country? That's not just a crime. We're talking about a massive national security problem and issue. You got to know the full dimensions of that. I mean, even these documents that Biden stole, the classified documents, they were all put in places where China had access to them. And what was the deal with China?
So did Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden, the drug-addled son of Joe Biden, also had access to those documents because they were in the garage next to the Corvette that we have pictures of Hunter Biden driving, as well as pictures of Joe Biden driving. Not only that, but we have emails or text messages from Hunter Biden that strongly resemble some of those documents that he had access to. They were written in a way unlike anything that he wrote until he wanted to show off to his friends in foreign countries.
I like to say they look like they were plagiarized, which is a gene that's carried in the Biden family, I think. Well, Bob, thank you for the description. Let's see what happens. The Bidens think they have it all behind them, and the New York Daily News does also. I can't see that. There are just too many charges. I mean, today, for example, there was another article in the Federalist pointing out what is obvious. In 2017, he reported $9.5 million in income, which is twice as much as he had earned in the prior 19 years combined. Now, the money comes in through Joe Biden. Yeah. The money comes in through two S corporations, and therefore you have no idea what the source is. So I'm sure the FBI hasn't investigated that either, right?
Well, the message that you have to send out to your listeners and also to the Bidens is it's not over.
Not
You may
over-
think it is.
It's not
but
over
it's
until
not.
the. Well, you know what we're going to say. It's not over until the fat lady sings. All right. Take care.
Exactly.
Take care, Bob.
Okay.
Thank you
have a good
very,
night.
very. Thank you
Thanks.
very, very much for the analysis. It was really very, very, very useful. Thank you. So, meanwhile, we don't know, and we have a right to know exactly how compromised this guy is with China. It seems to me up to, well, I don't know if I can say that. Totally, let's put it that way, totally compromised. You look at Stinkin' Blinken meeting with, I want you to look at, can you guys put on my my favorite little document camera there? Yeah, I want you to look at that picture, because there's a lot to that picture in terms of body language. I mean, that looks like Xi Jinping owns him, right? I mean, first of all, you know, just by listening to him, the guy is a sissy, a wussy. I won't use the other one that rhymes with it. He's a silly little boy. The horrible Secretary of State. A disaster. He was always been a disaster. I don't even know why we have a military with him around. Gosh almighty. Now, you look at the way Z's looking at him. Do we have it on the screen now? We do. Look at it. Where did this little wussy come from? I own him. And it's him leaning into Z. So he went. He's like his boss.
Hold it up, man.
Want me to hold it up too? Yeah, there you go.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's the full.
If you see the full one, you see him leaning in. He looks like he's going to fall like his boss.
Mayor, he looks like he's about to fall backwards or to the side.
Oh, yeah. But
she is very square.
He's trying
squared up.
He's trying to figure out how he can get his hands on some of that money that Z's giving out. I mean,
He's
they
gotta go
say,
talk to Joe.
I mean, I should have had Bob tell you what we really think he got from China, how much he really got from China. Not 31. It's not 31 million.
Blinken probably looks like one of those guys who has a weak, limp handshake, I would say, right, man?
What? Yeah, it doesn't look like Z is too worried about his handshake. This reminds me of when Putin used to meet with Obama, and he'd look at him. You could see it in his eyes. He'd say, "I'm a KGB killer," and he's a social activist. I got to deal with a social activist. Gosh almighty.
President Trump was great about in the 2016 debates. He'd say that to some of the different candidates. That's how he'd hit them, Mayor. He'd be like, "Can you imagine this guy going up against Putin?"
Yeah,
it was funny.
Well, Blinken, in the spirit of representing Joe Biden, failed miserably in why he went to this meeting. He was supposed to reestablish a military back channel liaison with China, which we have had for ever and ever, and it averts, confusion and problems when our ships get near each other, when our planes get near each other, and China walked out on it when the speaker went to Taiwan and has not reestablished it. So Joe sent Stinkin' Blinken there to reestablish it, and much like every time Joe went somewhere to help us and do so, he failed. Of course, he failed, and he basically said he's not going to do it. Go to hell. And then Blinken, after this thing here, they don't show the other part where he's down on his hands and knees, and Z turns around, and Blinken's on his hands and knees, and he's saying, "Don't worry, we won't defend Taiwan. Please know we won't defend Taiwan, and we will not make any issue about the millions you killed with COVID. Please, could you make believe you're doing something about fentanyl? We don't really expect you to do anything, but could you please, just for the sake of, could you make believe you're doing something about fentanyl? because you guys like to say you do. But we will not defend Taiwan. Don't worry. Whatever Biden says about Taiwan, don't even listen to him, because he's, you know about Biden. And number two, what's the difference if you kill 3-4 million from spreading COVID around? I mean, what the hell? You killed 80 million of your own people, only 3-4 million Europeans and Americans. I mean, we should be able to take that. So he basically licked his you-know-what and did what he usually does, which is sell out the United States of America. Now, how much of that is because of the 31 million that the Biden family got? And how does the United States attorney expect us to think he's a patriotic American and not pursue that? So Weiss, you're a bum. You know what a bum is? You're a bum. Trump made a big mistake appointing you. Don't you care about this country? Didn't the national security aspects of this interest you? What the hell's wrong with you? What do we have you for?
And of course, Mayor, it's important to point out this is a trip that was originally planned and then delayed maybe numerous times due to the little balloon. Little balloon.
Oh yeah, well,
deal.
Little Mr. Wussy also said that the balloon is behind us. No, he went ahead and said that it's behind us. Yeah, it doesn't matter that the guy photographed 4 or 5 of our most sensitive facilities, came away with everything he wanted since he was escorted by the United States Air Force, and his device wasn't shot down until he got every single thing he wanted. I'm sure Joe even called him and made sure he was satisfied. I wonder if Joe has like a thank you note from Z. I wonder if Z sends thank you notes, like, thank you, Joe, for letting me rape your country. Wow. I wonder if, that's got to be that. I mean, I think Z's getting his money's worth. What do you think? If it is 31 million, see, I happen to think it's a lot more than that. I think it's more like 50 or 60. But, we'll see when they open up the offshore accounts.
You can't help but think, Mayor, the only president maybe in recent, maybe ever, that really has stressed the importance of taking on China is President Trump. That's not to say others weren't necessary,
No.
But you know
Really, that's true.
That might be true. And
I think, we've spent time on this in podcasts and others, and we'll spend more time on it when we get an opportunity to get Gordon back again, Gordon Chang. But this is one of 4 or 5 reasons why they want to destroy Trump, and maybe one of the bigger ones. First of all, China is behind it, but so are a lot of the establishment, because a lot of the establishment is more loyal to China than to the United States. For example, the NBA. Look at the NBA as an example, or BlackRock, or I'm talking about the private companies that make a fortune in China and are willing to sell out their country for the money they make. That's another way in which China has infiltrated us. They've infiltrated our universities big time. The classified documents that Biden stole from the White House when he was vice president and stole from the SCIF when he was senator are all in places where Red China, the Chinese communists, have access. One of them is in Chinatown. That's just ridiculous. That's like sticking it in our face, right? They're in Chinatown. 2 are at institutions that are funded by the Red Chinese. And the 4th one is in his house that Hunter lives in, who for the longest time was a business partner with the chief spy of China. And as Bob pointed out, there are several documents on the hard drive that look like reproduced intelligence reports plagiarized about China. Of course, nothing is done about it. No questions about the hard drive, which means, that's one thing, which means no questions about the security of the United States of America. I don't get it. I don't get who these people are. I don't get it. This is not even about politics anymore. This is about your country. How can you live with yourself? Money? Power? Please. So the editorial in the Post, which is probably the only newspaper that has the guts to write it, is appeasing China. Yeah, of course, they're appeasing China, which is exactly what causes wars. It's exactly what causes wars. Read my book, Leadership, which has a chapter called Stand Up to Bullies. And the bullies are real bullies, Hitler and Stalin, and used as examples of when you cave into them, they just push further and further and further, like Putin did. Like Putin did in Ukraine. Putin would not be in Ukraine if Trump were the president. Putin wouldn't be in Ukraine if we had a man as a president. And now I'm saying man, not biological, or I'm talking about man, like somebody who has honor, integrity, and strength, and integrity.
It's interesting you say that, Mayor. They're saying the spring offensive is a
cowardly, suck-up little weakling. That's what we have.
Well, Mayor, we just got an exclusive from our friend Miranda Devine. Hunter Biden finally has to stop being a deadbeat father and pay 20 grand to his baby mama a month now for his child that he first denied.
Who he's never seen.
He's never seen as well.
Well, Miranda, we got to say this about Miranda. Beyond, I mean, Bob and I gave her the laptop, but wow. She took it and ran for a touchdown. I mean, she is terrific. And this article about Satabank that I'm telling you about, which is now the first bank other than Privat Bank that's been identified as a laundering device for the Bidens. This is by the New York Post also. So maybe it's only the Post that covers this. I don't know. Not even the Wall Street Journal. I mean, I don't get it. So,
well, Mayor, is now a good time to take a break? How are we doing?
Now is a good time to take a break, and when we come back, and that's why people will come back, we're going to have, everybody knows Lauren Conlon. Lauren is going to be with us, and therefore they won't have to look at my ugly face anymore. They can look at her beautiful face, and she has quite a tale to tell us, which follow up. Well, you'll see. You just come right back after you write down the phone number and the email, and make sure you call Kirk and get your free consultation. Free consultation. What do you got to lose? You got a lot to lose. So, go ahead. Faith and family, freedom and finance are 4 things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. And as I told you, we have wonderful and talented Lauren Conlon with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Lauren, tell us Tell us why you're here.
Well, I'm here, Mayor, because I need your help. The last time I was on this show was maybe 2 months ago, and I told you the story of Grant Solomon, the mysterious death of an 18-year-old in Tennessee. Since then, this case has meant a lot to me. So I started an entirely separate podcast from my own. It's called Corruption: What Happened to Grant Solomon. We have about 18 episodes so far. I've been speaking to experts in the field of law, in the field of medicine. And since then, we've uncovered new information as well. So at this point, everything is out on the table. I have made calls to the Gallatin Police Department.
Where?
The Gallatin PD, the police department who completely botched the investigation.
Tell everyone where it's where this is located.
This case is out of Gallatin, Tennessee. That is where Grant passed away.
Which is close to what will we relate?
It's close to Franklin, Tennessee. It's maybe 45 minutes from Nashville.
Okay.
So Grant died. And again, I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's a lot, but basically Grant died with his estranged father as the only witness. His father's story changed many times. They were in a parking lot. His father said Grant's truck ran him over in a ditch and dragged him 60 feet down this ditch.
Grant's truck got out of control? Is that what happened?
Well, he claims that Grant was getting out to get his baseball equipment and must not have been in park, and it rolled down and dragged him there, and Grant passed away. Now, why this is so troubling is that Grant's body was in perfect condition. There was no signs of burns. There was no signs of any type of trauma.
Is there an autopsy?
So there was not an autopsy. And we discussed before.
Yeah, I do, but I forgot that.
Yes, it's okay. So since we discussed this, I looked into why there possibly wouldn't be an autopsy.
Why?
Well, Tennessee is a state that doesn't really require them unless the DA forces them to have one. So for whatever reason, DA Ray Whitley in Sumner County, Tennessee, did not have an autopsy performed, and he just took Aaron Solomon, Grant's father's word for this death, and the Gallatin PD.
Was he a big shot?
So Aaron was a news anchor in Nashville, very well known, with ties to the community, ties to the church. So something we uncovered last week, or I uncovered, people have known this for a while, but with this whole case not being investigated and the Gallatin PD completely botching it, and let me tell you, I called the police chief. I got on the line with him. He gave me a couple seconds. As soon as I said Grant Solomon, he cut me off and he told me to call city legal. And it was very troubling. All I wanted was him just to say, let me look into this. Let me call you back. This is not the right time. He rushed me off so quickly. So last week I did an episode, and it turns out that during Aaron Solomon's eulogy for his son, and the whole eulogy is terrible. I know that you know Tanya Ryman, the body language expert. She analyzed this whole thing for me. The eulogy is so inappropriate. And at one point, Aaron Solomon decides to say and tell everybody that his son's belongings were left in the ditch by Gallatin PD, which is mind-blowing to me. They left Grant's cell phone, his goggles, and his hat. Now, I looked up Gallatin, population 50,000. It just so happens that Aaron Solomon, his best friend, a random man who knew Aaron Solomon's best friend, found Grant's belongings in the ditch and returned them to Aaron Solomon's best friend. Is that not weird to you?
Mm-hmm.
So he returns these belongings, and Aaron says this, "Oh yeah, well, the belongings were left in the ditch, but don't worry. Some man who knew my best friend gave them to me." Now, he gave a phone, right? You look at the phone. I sent Ted the picture of the phone. The phone appears to have a spiderweb crack, which doesn't match if a phone was tossed into a ditch, run over by a car. A spiderweb crack would be someone smashes it with a hammer. This was never even investigated. And this is just one instance I'm talking about.
As I understand it, though, this was never investigated as a homicide.
Never, ever. And what is so troubling, Mayor? What is so troubling about this, Mayor, is that the Solomon family had public drama where they were in court. Obviously, we discussed this, fighting over custody of the kids. Grant Solomon went on record many times. DCS was called, where Grant Solomon said, "I don't feel safe with my father." Would this not be the main reason that you treat this, besides the fact that nothing matched up, the body, nothing? So, Mayor, what I'm trying to get at here is that I have made calls. I have all of the documents. I have everything. I don't understand why these men and women will not do anything about it. I have written down Governor Bill Lee, Senator Bill Haggerty, Senator Jack Johnson, and I don't think she's aware of this, but Marsha Blackburn. I think she would be amazing to, if you could get in touch with her to reach out.
What about the Attorney General of
Jonathan
the state?
Skrmetti? This is very interesting. You bring this up.
He would be the one that you would naturally go to with something.
Well,
like
we have an email where Jonathan Skrmetti actually blindly called this a homicide without even knowing what it was. He saw the details and he said, this is a homicide. And that was completely looked over. So something else that
And he will not meet with you?
well, no, not with Angie Solomon. She's reached out many, many times. I think it takes, we have over 250,000 signatures on the change.org petition to reopen this case, treat it like a homicide. And I think that one call from you would mean 10 times as much as these change.org petitions.
Okay. Well, why don't you and I talk about that privately?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay. Cause that would mean, and that would mean everything. That would mean everything. And
Really?
I want to throw out one other thing about the DA that we uncovered. And I know we discussed this before. This doesn't matter to Grant's case, getting it reopened, but there is also another open investigation with Aaron Solomon, the father, with his daughter. She has accused him of sexual assault. It's been substantiated by DCS, by the courts. There's a no contact order in place. However, he still walks the streets. DA Whitley knows very well about this case, refuses to open it. I found another case where DA Whitley actually let off a pedophile, a substantiated pedophile in the school district of Gallatin, Tennessee, on probation, 3 years probation. He said there wasn't enough evidence, even though 5 kids came forward. Turns out this teacher, his name is Robert Ring, I believe, keep him away from your kids in Tennessee, as well as Aaron Solomon. But yeah, he had ties to the community and he gave him 3 years probation, $600. And it seems like they are all protecting.
Well, you and I will go over this.
Pinky swear,
Fine.
pinky promise.
With a fine tooth comb.
We're desperate. This keeps me up at night, Mayor. It's
I think
not
the
okay,
attorney, I think the Attorney General is the key here. But okay. Let's see what we can do.
Okay. And if anyone listening to this podcast has any
and
tips,
tell them how to get your podcast.
please, yes, you
because
can.
if you want the details of this, and look, it's a very interesting story. So I know people love these crime stories.
True crime.
Seems to me they got about 500 of them on television.
Oh, there is. But the reason this is so disturbing is that it's someone's life that they're still living and they are still dealing with this nightmare, right? So, which is why, if anyone listening has any ties to these people, we are begging you here.
Well, how did you?
They can, you can email me, Lauren at magicshack.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Conlon_Lauren, and you can find the podcast. It's called Corruption. What Happened to Grant? I've had Arthur Idala on, Tanya. I've had Dr. Maria on. We, like I said, the experts. The list is exponential at this point.
So if I want to get the podcast, what do I?
Corruption. You go to anywhere you get your podcast. It's everywhere. Corruption. What Happened to Grant Solomon? You'll be blown away by this.
If we put your name in, do we get it too? Well,
yeah, you will. Lauren Conlon.
Okay.
You will. So
excellent.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And
good luck.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to bother you about this.
And be careful.
I will.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting. We'll see what comes of this, and we'll take a very, very good look at it. Tell me, how much more time, Ted, do they have to save those people that are down at the bottom of the ocean, lost, trying to get a view of the Titanic?
Well, Mayor, they're down to about 30 hours. Some are saying 20. So I guess it depends on.
They originally had 96 hours.
That's right.
When they first were.
Yeah, Mayor, I just say it was 40 hours this morning, so they have to be at least down to 30, at least.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So what happens? There's no more oxygen in the Titan. The little submersible they're in is called the Titan, and the owner is Ocean Gate Expeditions, and the actual owner is on board. Right?
That's right. The owner is on board. A massive search is
Hamish Harding.
underway.
Is that who it is? Hamish?
5 people are on board. A British adventurer.
Is that his name? Hamish Harding? Is he the owner or is
I
he
am
the, is he
Richard
the-
Stockton Rush is the CEO.
Oh, Amish Harding is the explorer, the
Yes, that's right.
world-renowned explorer, and they all paid. Well, maybe he didn't because he's sort of an expert. But at $250,000 a seat, they've done several of these successfully. They also had one that went awry last year and was missing for like 10 hours. And then after that, 2.5 hours, excuse me. They had one last year that was missing for 2.5 hours. And then after that, they had a successful launch where the people actually got to see the shipwreck. I don't know if this is the one right after it. Basically, the entire trip takes about 8 days, but the dive itself is around 10 hours. And I don't know if you've seen. You want to take a look at this? Show them the submersible.
Yeah, I will. Yep.
Show them the submersible. That's really kind of really tiny. What's 5 people in there?
5 people, Mayor.
Well, Mayor, like I was telling you off when we took our break, this little submarine was made with a lot of household parts that you can just buy in any hardware store. So
Why?
I don't know. It's very strange, but personally, I wouldn't go in this thing and I wouldn't pay $250,000. I mean, that's insane.
I guess people have an enormous curiosity about the Titanic, but I mean, I don't get it either. So the Titanic is 370 miles off of Newfoundland. Got to be about the coldest water in the world, right? And remember what happened to the Titanic, right? Remember how it went down? Yeah, it hit an iceberg. And
At least that's that is the prevailing
we have
wisdom.
a conspiracy theory on the Titanic too.
We don't have the time, Mayor. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gone.
It was probably the
into
Proud
that.
Boys.
In the early 1900s.
Trump probably did it.
It was
Trump
a white
did it.
nationalist.
There was a white
No,
nationalist who did it. The
This
Proud
was
Boys.
Trump.
It's the Proud
No,
Boys.
I think they probably hit
Biden.
they hit one of Hunter Biden's crack rocks. And
Yeah,
then
Well, we'll wait for.
Biden.
Well,
That's what it was.
I'm waiting for the 2,000-word essay from the Atlantic. Why Trumpism is to blame for Titanic sinking.
Well, Biden within the next several days is going to explain how he saved people on the Titanic.
Yeah.
He was there and he saved an enormous number of people. And he's going to go himself. He's going to do a deep dive.
Apparently, he was also the push-up king. Allegedly, he said the other day he did the most push-ups out of anyone in his class.
Does he ever tell the truth?
No.
First of all, he was that when he was left back in the 3rd grade?
Who knows? He's the push-up king. He says. So I don't know what he means, but he did the most push-ups. Maybe he did them with popcorn. What the guy's name was? I don't know. The guy,
you know my theory about corn pop.
Corn pop. There you go.
Corn.
Popcorn. Yeah.
Corn. I mean, he talks about corn pop and how he straightened him out. Corn pop kicked his ass.
Absolutely.
That's why he's got a chip on his shoulder. You know what? I know actually why he has a chip on his shoulder, because I knew one of his friends in law school, because he's always been the dumbest kid in school. So the guy, tries to act like he's smart, which he makes a fool out of himself. God saved the Queen recently. He just said, God save the Queen. Did anybody tell him the Queen is dead? Or does he have the brain cells to absorb it? You realize how dangerous it is to have a president that is mentally incompetent? Or I guess what we could end up with is a vice president who's mentally incompetent for different reasons.
Mayor, I was just going to literally say to you, who has the worst sayings?
I don't know.
Kamala or Joe? Who's the worst?
Yesterday, I don't have him with me today. I wish I did. Yesterday, we played like a little montage of some of her most ridiculous comments, and you listen to them and you say, she talks like she's about 5 years old. She may have a mental age of a 5-year-old. let's actually let's get everybody scared that she could be the president and see if we can play one of them.
Jesus Christ almighty.
So let's see. Do we have any questions before I go on to my next subject?
Well, we are now about to enter soccer time.
Well, before soccer time comes, I have got to say that I was very, very upset this morning because I found out that the present mayor in the year 1993 was visited by God. And God told him that 30 years later, he would be mayor of New York City. Now, I was running for mayor in 1993. And I don't even get a visit by Gabriel. Now, I would say that I can prove to you that Adams is lying, because God didn't even go himself to the Blessed Mother or St. Joseph's. He sent Gabriel. So why would he go talk to? He would have sent Gabriel. He even sent Gabriel to Muhammad. If you listen to Muhammad, the Quran was dictated by Gabriel. What, we got another wacko? What is this, wacko time? We got Biden in the White House. We got Adams getting visited by God. And then we have, I don't know how you what about Fetterman? Did you see Fetterman the other day?
That's not even.
Didn't he call Biden a collapsed bridge? Yeah, he did. He called President Biden a collapsed bridge. Yeah, very confused on him.
He looks like out of a monster movie. He looks like out of a monster movie.
He looks like Lurch from the Addams Family. Well, actually,
does he do that on purpose?
Somebody unfollowed me because I made fun of him. And actually,
yeah, I think his whole shtick, Mayor, is he wants to come off as like the common guy, like not like a suit and tie kind of guy. Like he's an everyman man. You know what I mean?
No, he's not every man. I don't know any. I don't know anybody that dresses like that or talks like that.
Well, Mayor, do we want to say we have it's obviously the fastest hour on the internet has come and gone. We of course have the pigeon, our new friend. I don't know if we want to save that for tomorrow.
No, I want to talk about Walter.
Well, why don't we talk about Walter and share with our audience? I'll put some pictures up as we talk about it. I've downloaded the pictures and videos right on here, Mayor.
Yeah.
Put up some nice pictures of Walter. Walter, if you weren't with us last night, Walter somehow got stuck on my fire escape, and he got his head stuck in a grate in the fire escape. We were told later by the lady at the rescue center that he probably had neurological damage from ingesting lead and lost his perspective, his balance, everything else, and fell from a higher area above. I'm on the 10th floor, so he could have been on the roof and his head got caught. Dr. Maria luckily saw him. She doesn't know how long he was there. She didn't hear him. He didn't make any noise, but she saw him. And she got him out of the grate and she put him on a safe place on the fire escape, which is fairly large. And he couldn't move. He tried to move and he flopped over. And her original thought was that he had a broken wing because he couldn't fly either. So very shortly thereafter, Ted and I got in after the show. And long story made shorter, after doing some research on the internet, we found the Bird Fund, and they're over on Columbus Avenue. We also read on the internet what you do for a pigeon, and we gave him some water, and we gave him some cereal.
I want to play a short video of you bringing the bird to the shelter,
and then we put him in a box, which is what you're supposed to do. You put him in a box. You put a towel at the bottom of the box so he's comfortable. Put a couple of crumbs in there and put holes in it. And he feels very comfortable in the box, said the advice. And it was. He really, the minute he got in that box, he was very, very calm.
Let's roll the tape.
And I've named him Walter. No, this is mask required.
We have a bird. I'll let you talk to him. I'm gonna film it. Hi. Hi.
This bird was on our fire escape on the 10th floor. He got his head caught in like in the grate. And then my girlfriend took him out and tried to feed him and give him water. But I think his wing is broken.
Is it a pigeon?
Pigeon.
Okay.
He seems very delicate.
Okay.
Should we open him up or?
I'll take him inside to have him looked at.
Okay.
But is he able to fly?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay. So our
But he took water.
okay, that's good.
I don't cheat before.
Okay.
Let's give them the information on the bird fund again, so people can make some kind of donation. Any
I'm gonna look it up here and put it on the screen.
the bird fund, you can do it by mail, or I think it's just birdfund.org, if I recall correctly, or you can do it over the internet, and they take care of something like 22, 23 pigeons every day, and then other birds. And apparently the city is a dangerous place for them, but also, a place where they can find food. And you're not allowed. I didn't really keep up with this, but maybe I even passed this law. You can't feed pigeons. You're not allowed to feed pigeons. You got to let them go figure it out on their own. The theory, I think, being that they'll congregate too much in one place, and because of the droppings, create a problem. The other thing you should know, which I always labored under the misapprehension, that they carried a lot of illnesses and sicknesses, and they don't. I mean, people call them flying rats. Unfair. They are basically, in terms of transmitting diseases to humans, very safe. Of course, like any animal, given a city like New York, they can get a lot of illnesses and do. And a lot of them are starving to death because they can't be fed. But on the other hand, they're very resourceful, very smart. Remember, it's just really a slightly varied species that make the homing pigeons that used to deliver mail and were used during war. And even today, race competitively. And you can train a pigeon to do that because they're very smart. So do not underestimate Walter. Walter's going to make a nice
let's
comeback.
back it up. Let's show Walter. If you were with us last night, you would have seen this. But for our Tuesday night viewers, let's play a clip of Walter and how Dr. Maria and the mayor saved Walter.
Oh, he's got a lot more. Oh, you know what? His wings back up. I bet by the morning he's going to fly away. He ran away from me pretty good.
I'm trying to help you, Toby.
I know, but his wings back up too. It was dragging before. His left wing. I think he's going to fly away by the morning. I think those people that rope.
Maybe you can see the wing slightly off, right?
Yeah.
I think you could on that one.
That's right, Mayor. And then let's give one more clip. This is from the Wild Bird Fund Wildlife Rescue. So if you check them out, we put the website on there. Check this short clip out.
Pigeons get in trouble all the time. They are out and about in this rough city.
Huh?
And
What do you think happened?
well, we think he has a neurologic condition actually, which could be the result of ingesting lead. So we have a way to test for lead. I'll call it lead poisoning, but it's the presence of lead in the system. And so when it affects your nervous system, it affects your ability to control your muscles.
So that's how he got his head stuck in the.
Well, he's a little floppy. I don't know if you noticed. He doesn't hold himself up quite the way a normal pigeon would, and he probably can't fly if at all because everything is.
I think he would have flown away.
Everything
he was scared of
is
us.
everything is sort of out of whack because of the neurologic condition.
You're back on, Mayor.
Okay, now I want you to hear what would happen if Biden woke up one morning and couldn't speak anymore, which is not impossible, by the way, with having the illness that he has. That can happen. It can just go out. That's what he's headed for anyway. And if you don't think he has dementia, I don't know, go to Mars or something. So let's listen to what would replace him. This is a one I didn't play yesterday. I didn't have it yesterday. This is President Harris. At least she's described as President Harris by our present president. Here, I'll put the microphone so you can hear it properly. And this is President Harris.
Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
What the hell does that mean? Do you have any idea what that means? Maybe she did fall out of a coconut tree, hit her head. I don't know. I guess Willie Brown understood her.
Well, Mayor, we are well into soccer time.
I know, but we can't. There's no way we can resist this one. I have to find this one here. Okay, here we go. This is during Father's Day Mass at Lenox Road Baptist Church. I will have to say, as a student of comparative religion, that I doubt there was a Mass at the Baptist Church. Baptists do not have Mass. They have religious services, of course, but I don't think Baptists would like it described as a Mass. That would be very papist. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out if the Lenox Road Baptist Church has a Mass, but this will be very, very famous because this could be the first mayor that had this happen to him. I want you to listen to this and tell me if you believe this. This is Eric Adams telling us about his visitation from God.
30-something years ago, I woke up out of my sleep in a cold sweat. God spoke to my heart and said, you are going to be the mayor January 1st, 2022. And the message was, God stated, you cannot be silent. You must tell everyone you know. Because it's a Judges 7, verse 2 through 7 moment. Because when you win the battle, I don't want you to think that you won on your own. And I don't want people to think that you won because of you who you are.
Okay. So he's been anointed by God to be our mayor. You'd think he'd be doing a better job if that were the case. You'd think, for example, like when I was mayor, crime would be down rather than up. You would think that homelessness would be down rather than at record levels. Right. You would think that people would be flocking to the city as they did when I was mayor. The population went up. Instead, it is one of the cities that people are leaving the most in competition with, Los Angeles, San Francisco, the other cities that are going to hell. I don't think if he was anointed by God, these things would be happening, would they? Nor do I think if he was anointed by God, he would be in favor of supporting all this trans medicine and surgery for 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16, 17, without necessarily parents' permission. Don't think he'd allow that in school system if he was a messenger of God. And, I was kidding around before that God doesn't make too many visits. He did visit Moses and of course his son, Jesus. But even Mary and Joseph were visited by the angel Gabriel, and so was Muhammad. But I guess Adams got a clear. Wow.
Well, Mayor, don't forget, you have something on Mayor Adams. You're friends with Mother Teresa. Well,
I was friends with Mother Teresa.
That's
and
right.
I should
That's
say,
right.
this may be the reason that Adams endorsed me, which he hates to be reminded of in 1997. He endorsed me. I'm not sure, I particularly want that endorsement now, but he did endorse me for mayor and said I did a much better job than David Dinkins. Got it on tape. Eric, it's going to be hard to squeeze out of that one, babes.
How much more do you want to go tonight, Mayor?
We can go a little bit more.
All right. Well, why don't we get an update? What else do we have on the list, Mayor?
The only thing I have left, I've got it all. My dear, come on over. We should have left a chair there.
Mayor, slide that gas microphone over.
Yep. This one here, right?
Yes, sir.
Here we are, Megan.
How you doing, Mayor?
I'm good. Megan, did you come from Philadelphia?
I definitely did.
So
And we see everything that's going on there this week.
Well, tell me.
Well, with 95, and then you got Joe Biden and Fetterman. They couldn't get through a full sentence together. Those two together. It's very embarrassing.
That was an appearance from hell.
Yeah, I would agree.
What is he dressed up for, Fetterman?
I mean, he looks
What
like
is
he's
that
at
thing
his
with the
son's
hoodie?
basketball practice. I don't know. But wasn't he just in like a mental facility? Like, I'm not.
Yeah, no. He had among other things,
depression.
serious depression.
But there was a mental health issue, and I think he was there for over 4 weeks. That's pretty serious. You're making really big decisions.
Plus, he has other issues like he doesn't understand the language unless it's translated by some machine.
Well, I don't know who could have done the worst job, though, of anything I've ever seen. Having those two do a press conference, they couldn't get full words out the correct way. Both of them. It's beyond embarrassing. And obviously, as we all know, fake news will do a great job of suppressing, not showing the, full ramification of what it is that.
I guess they must consider the office of senator to be kind of useless and silly. The press must consider it to be a completely useless office to allow somebody like that to get elected and not raise an issue about it, right?
In the Keystone State of all places.
Maybe it is kind of useless. All they do is talk. Oh, wait a second, he can't talk.
It's really, Biden can't talk either, but
there's only one. But the president has to do other things other than talk. But a senator, that's all a senator does is shoot his mouth off, and he can't even shoot his mouth off.
He basically didn't he say something to the effect of that Biden was a bridge?
Collapsed bridge.
Biden was a collapsed bridge. Can you imagine if Trump was to ever say anything, not even remotely close to that, they would be reaching. But the fact that this isn't a bigger deal.
Maybe he's not so dumb.
Yeah. I
think he's right. I think Biden is a collapse.
I kind of do look at, in context, Biden as a collapsed bridge.
Yeah.
He claims to be some sort of uniter, but he only continues to divide.
Well, collapsed also. He doesn't have a brain. He doesn't have a brain anymore. Yeah, his brain is gone.
I was with a really good couple that I'm friends with, married, both in law enforcement, retired. The husband was in the DEA, wife was a police officer. We had a long conversation over the weekend about obviously the state of affairs that we're in. Gina and Vito Guarino, great people. They love you, huge fans of the show. And it's unfortunate that we're seeing the state of affairs that we're in, especially with the amount of fentanyl that is crossing the border. And this is something maybe a lot of people don't want to talk about, but I feel like in our lives, everybody's affected. You have family members, friends. It's touching everybody. The real pandemic is the fentanyl that's crossing the borders. What I want to know is, and why isn't Biden making an effort to address this?
Oh, he had Stinking Blinken go
This
ask.
is a very, very big deal.
He had Stinking Blinken go ask Mr. Z if he would do. He said, would you please do something about the fentanyl? No suggestion about what to do. No penalties for not doing it.
And if you actually look at the numbers, there's more people dying every day of fentanyl than there ever was of COVID. But they'll never tell you that on fake news because that doesn't fit their narrative.
Well, it's what
This is part of what they want.
It's a good follow-up for the Chinese.
They want population control. This is
It's
part
even
of
better.
the New World Order.
It's even better for the Chinese than COVID because they make money on it as well as kill us. Whereas with COVID, they lost a lot of money. And, well, they probably made a lot of money on the PPP. And, I mean, they made a fortune on selling the PPP. And we found out that 90% of our medicine comes from there. It's crazy. And, of course, Biden has done nothing to straighten that out.
There's zero accountability. Zero.
Yeah.
Fentanyl, #1 drug in Rikers Island.
But that's what you
That's
get.
actually inside the prison.
Inside the jail.
I mean, can you imagine? So my friend that was in the DEA, he actually told a story about when they took over a jail in St. Thomas, and they were saying the jail was actually, everybody was corrupt. So they had to go in there and just take everything over because of the drugs and everything that was going on. But the fact that this could go on in a city like New York City.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what they do, Megan and Mayor. Obviously, you might not know this. With the fentanyl, the people, they send it through the mail.
Mhm.
And what they do is they dip the piece of paper in the fentanyl, the liquid fentanyl, and then the inmates, they smoke it.
And you got
That's
to
So what if you're a person that works at the jail? If you touch that, right, and you get that on your fingers, just something as simple as that, you can overdose.
So last week we actually had 2 corrections officers go out EMS because they actually inhaled some fentanyl.
2 dogs died last week.
Right.
2 dogs died because there must have been some on the ground. And
So-
they looked at, and they died of fentanyl.
So for
By the
context,
way, not the first. There's
Right.
been a bunch of them.
right? So for context,
Regular little dogs.
Wow.
for context, Mayor and Megan and Ted, when I was EMS, I was FDNY EMS for 5 years. We would actually have to call a doctor for fentanyl for pain management, and it would actually have to be in micrograms, like 0.1
Oh, you gotta be
microgram.
awfully careful.
One teaspoon of fentanyl
Right.
can kill thousands of people.
It wasn't even,
And I don't think that
yeah.
people really
No,
realize that.
exactly.
And if you see,
No,
if
you have to
the
be
people
very.
that are in the
You have to cut-
laboratories,
you have to cut it.
correct.
but
You
the
gotta
people
keep
in
cutting
the
it.
in the
Correct.
laboratories, I don't think it's by accident that this much fentanyl is crossing the country and the border too.
No,
And
there's
I
no
think
doubt
that
about it.
they're allowing a lot of it.
If you ran Red China and were a homicidal maniac communist like Z is, this is a perfect thing. He's got total access to the border. He and the Mexican cartels have been in business together for 20 years. He gets to make a fortune with it, and he gets to kill his enemy. I mean, it's better than COVID.
And then you have multiple cities, including Philadelphia, trying to legalize legal injection facilities. Can you imagine that? They want
we
to,
have it here.
well, and they're actually, there is nothing good that comes of that.
Megan, we have
They have a
crack
kit that
pipe
they give you.
vending
No, they
machines.
give you crack. Yes,
that's
I've
what we
seen
have.
it.
Bill
This is-
Bratton
I'm
went
going
nuts
back
the other day.
I'm going
Did you
back
see
2
that?
years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
They give
My
you
my
crack
first-
pipe. Yeah.
My first police commissioner went crazy the other day.
What is
because
this teaching our children?
Because you can get the pipe for nothing. You just go to the vending machine.
And their excuse is, and the fact that tax dollars are being spent on this. So basically, what you're ineffectively doing is you're promoting the drug use.
Mm.
Why
Yeah,
don't
ev-
we spend the money on programs
Yeah,
to help
every-
people get off of
every
drugs,
time we do,
not to do drugs?
every time we legalize aspects of it, either the paraphernalia or the drug itself, use goes up 2 and 3 times.
Mm.
For example, marijuana use is through the roof.
Mm.
I mean, I told people
because
for
the government
years,
gets to make money
if
off
you
of that
if
now.
you legalize marijuana, you're going to double and triple the usage of it, and we have. And now we're starting to find out. Unfortunately, the train's left the station. We're starting to find out that it's a very dangerous drug, particularly for young people. You start taking it at a young age, it deteriorates your brain. And even at an older age, it deteriorates your brain, which, by the way, makes sense. Oh, well. Well,
I have one more question
good.
about precedent law, meaning Hunter Biden's case.
Yeah.
Everything that's playing out right now. Do you think that other cases that are similar to that should be reheard, or they should be able to use that as a model to fight their cases?
It's a guilty plea, so it's hard to use it. I think the guy who'll get the benefit of it is Trump, on the theory that his prosecution is entirely prejudicial and entirely political.
Especially since there was more documents found on Biden, openly on record, way more documents found on Biden. How can you prosecute Trump, but we're not going to go after Hunter and we're not going to go after Biden?
And no one will point out that those documents were all in places that the Red Chinese have access to. I think they were put there for that reason. They were put in Chinatown, in 2 institutes that are funded by China, and then in the house.
In the garage, I think.
Yeah, which Hunter.
With the same car that he was driving when he was smoking on the video, smoking crack.
Yeah, Hunter.
Earlier in the day, he had the picture.
Hunter would go past those documents.
MarcoPolo.com, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody should go on there and take a look at that laptop. I tell everybody.
Yep. And take a look at those pictures and you'll see the documents. You'll see that he obviously saw the documents. And you're not going to tell me that those texts that are sent that sound like and look like intelligence about China weren't plagiarized by Hunter and sent to the people who were giving him millions and millions of dollars. Well, we have had an extraordinarily interesting show and covered a great deal. I hope you got a lot out of it. We weren't able to get to calls today, so we'll do more calls tomorrow than usual, so that you'll get a chance to call in and let us know what you would like to talk about. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Who knows? You wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, is this really America? Land of the free and the home of the brave. Well, I think it is. It's just hiding below the surface. I talked to an awful lot of people who find this intolerable and are ready to act. And what I mean by act, so cut it out. Don't start in the bullshit, all right? What I mean by act is at the ballot box, and I mean that. You've always known I mean that. You're the ones who do the violence, not us. Sorry. Well, God bless America. We'll see you tomorrow. And I'm confident we'll have plenty to talk about. Thank you very much for tuning in. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it.